Hey everyone, welcome to DBSAR's little corner of YouTube. I'm just starting my channel out, so I haven't really have many videos on it yet, other than a couple of videos regarding the LT1 as a battery test. But anyhow, this video is going to be regarding the Iclover motion lights. They were sent to me by Kyle from IcloverLights.com for review. And basically, what these are, they're like motion or night lights for outside, garden lights, things like that. And I've been testing these over the last week or so for various different uses around the yard, around the fence, cottage, things like that. And they're actually not bad, especially for the price point that these are at. Okay, first of all, we'll go through some of what actually they are and what they have. On the top, we have a small solar panel, and on the front, we have a bunch of SMDs on PC boards, aluminum boards actually, and all the way around the bottom and on the sides. A motion sensor in the middle, and an on-off switch on the front, and two mounting holes on the top, and they're flat on the back. And they the package comes with two 3M adhesive pads, some mounting screws, an actual screw position marker, which kind of works the same way as if you do this. You just lay it on the wall. Okay, stop with the focus. There we go. I don't think the focus is working real. There we go. And an instruction manual regards to modes. So what they have, let's see here. They have basically three modes. Basically, it's click once, it blinks once. And that is basically a standard motion mode itself. So once during the day, it doesn't pick up motion like most of these motion lights do. But when at night, they will actually pick up motion. They'll stay on for roughly 15 seconds, then they'll turn off in mode 1. And if you go to mode 2, it makes two blinks. And what that does, it has a night light mode, same as what your garden lights would be, a much lower lumen sort of, probably around 30 to 40 lumens, I guess, or maybe a little less. So when it's at night, it'll actually turn on the motion mode, and when that turns off, it'll go into a dimmer mode. Mode 3, actually, basically, it's a garden light mode, so it's a little bit lower. You can probably see a small bit of PWM in the camera, because it actually has a small bit of PWM. It's not really bad, but it's noticeable when you walk by it. But in this mode, it draws very low ampere, like amps from the actual battery. And runtime test gives it around 7 to 8 hours, and then it just shuts off. Another click turns the light off completely. One interesting thing about these that I like is that these are the first ones I've ever tested or actually used that has a lithium-ion 18650 battery on the inside. You'll see a picture posted on the BLF report on the website in the topic there. Because most of these I bought have usually like nickel cadmiums or nickel metal hydride batteries, and in the AA size or even the AAA size for like garden lights, things like that. And these, like I said, have a lithium ion, which is kind of interesting. I'm curious how that would work out in the cold weather, because lithium ion don't like to be charged when they're really cold. But the fact that the panel is small and it only trickle charges at probably 0.05 of an amp, but, I think it's around a half watt or something like that. That's basically what I tested that. So it's going to only trickle charging it, so it's not going to fast charge these batteries. So, after a whole day, it'll top the battery up for what little use, depending on how much light it's going to be on. Most of these lights that I bought, that I've used in the past, that are similar to this in brightness, are usually a separate light that have a wire with a separate panel that's mounted like on a roof or something, or separately on a wall, like for shed lights, motion lights, or around a farm, like a barn, things like that. But these are the first ones I've tested actually have a built-in panel that are actually quite bright. The high mode, I'm estimating around 600 to 700, 800 lumens, even though they rate from around 1,000, but it's actually quite bright. It's brighter than the ones that I've bought before. I have two outside actually mounted on this trailer by each corner that I paid around $35 to $45, $50 for, and they have a separate panel. They run on 3 nickel metal hydride batteries, and they're not nearly as bright as these. And they're the same idea, they're motion lights. And the motion light angle itself, the testing I got, they seem to work best when they're between 4 to 7 feet off the ground, like when they're a lot lower than that, because this motion sensor is slightly angled downward when it's actually mounted on the wall. So if you mount them between 4 and 7 feet, it seems at the best sensitive range for that. And you'll start picking up motion from an average of 10 to 12 feet away at night. I find in the rain it's a little less, but at night, yeah, normally they come on with 10 to 12 feet away. The tint range of these things is around the 6 to 65K as expected, like most of these. It would be preferable if they actually had around 5K for these type of lights, but for 6,065, the usual cooler white type tints, which are the same as the ones that I originally bought that I installed on the RV, and plus I have a couple in the backyard near the shed. And as usual, I swap the LEDs out of those and put 5K in one, and I think 4K in another one. So these will be a little bit harder to swap. You need 100 of these SMDs, and as you can see them there, there's a lot of them in there. But for 66,000 K tint, it's not too bad. The color temperature is not too bad. But again, it's an outdoor motion light, so it lights up quite a bit in area. So yeah, these are, like I said, there's 2 in a pack. They come with everything. I think the price point was around the $35 to $40 range, and they were on sale on their website for, I think it was $22 US, which is great, or 25, I'm not sure exactly, but I'll post a link to their website. So the price is really good for what you get, and the fact that it had a lithium-ion battery in it, and the battery itself is rated for around, I think it was 2200. But the actual test, when I tested it, where did I have it marked down here somewhere? Yeah, the testing I got on around, I think I'll post a picture of it there, it was around between 1850 to 1900 actual milliamp hours for the cell, and the internal resistance was around the 100-150 range. So their average cells, the rating wasn't bad. It's not as much as the 2200, but it's actually pretty good considering at the 1850 or 1800 to 1900 milliamp hours for each of the cells, and you have one cell in them basically behind its back. So yeah, so that's just the battery. Another advantage of these things that my other ones do not have is the light angle. I find I really like this, because the other ones just have a reflector that has a couple of these that face forward, so they just illuminate a small area in front. When these are mounted on the wall, you illuminate pretty much 180 degrees from the wall to the wall, because they have them on the side, plus on the bottom, angled outward, and on each side. So these things have a great coverage of illumination, which makes them great for like on a fence or a barn, over a door or something like that, a shed, cottage, you know, so they illuminate the entire area. And so that's one advantage these things got that the other ones did not. Yeah. So yeah, so each one of these has 100 LEDs each, a small switch in the front, the sensors on the top, a small panel on the top. The one thing I find, the advantage of having a panel on the top is that you don't have to worry about the wire and a separate, okay, focus. I'm using my phone for camera. I don't think it works too well for the focus. But yeah, there we go. Is that the panels, it's all integrated. The one disadvantage is that when you're out on the wall, you got to make sure they're either facing south or like southwest to get most of the light. Because if you're mounted facing north, they're not going to get very much of a charge. And the same thing applies for if you're mounted on a wall over where there's an eave or something in a shadow. So yeah, they will not work too well in a place that's mounted high underneath an eave or any shadowed area. They need to be mounted somewhere where they're actually facing lots of light, you know, anywhere between the southwest range, open area, no trees, no eaves, things like that, because the panel's built in. You can't mount them separate with a separate panel. So that's the only drawback of these things. But but as for like mounting them on like a travel trailer or utility trailer, your shed, over your door, your house, if you mount them down a couple of feet from the eave, then no problem. They'll get lots of light and they'll charge no problem. So that is one of the things that do work. So yeah, so basically, like I showed you the modes originally, the first mode is, when I explained it, sets the light into bright motion only after detecting motion, turns on high output for 15 seconds and then turns off if no motion is detected. It'll stay off then until something walks in front or whatever. And another click, it'll blink twice. That's mode 2, which sets it into garden law mode, meaning at night it'll turn on the garden mode as a glow. And when you walk in front of it, the motion detects it, goes into the high mode, so it goes much brighter. It'll do that for 15 seconds, and then it'll go into the low mode again. It'll stay in the low mode again for around between 6, 7, 8 hours, and it shuts off if the battery goes dead. Or from the test I got, it actually ran till like pretty much sunrise, and so it actually, cell capacity is pretty good for what it actually does on a low. It's only drawing, you know, a fraction of a few watts. And mode 3, it'll blink 3 times. We'll set it into the garden mode only. Now that mode, like I said, has PWM, but this mode is still brighter than most of your average little garden stake lights that you buy that run all night. So these will run pretty much all night in this mode, but there's no motion detection. They just stay on the low mode. So if you want, you know, fairly bright garden lights on the wall, leave them on low. Great, you can leave them in the third mode. And if you're using them on something mobile like a trailer, you just click the switch and turns it off. So that way there's no motion and it stays off. But interesting, while it's off, the test that I found, the solar panel will still charge the cell. And it brings it up to around the average of, I think it's around 4.17 volts. So yeah, so that's not too bad. So it keeps the cell charged, topped up when it's off. So when you do get to a campsite, or if you're anywhere, you can just hit the button and it goes back into motion mode, or it's motion and nightlight mode, or it's nightlight mode only, or solar light mode, then off. Yeah, so it has some interesting features that the other ones that I bought that I have installed don't have. They're either on or off, and a couple of those you can adjust the sensitivity. That was one thing this thing you can't do. You can't adjust the sensitivity, but sensitivity is pretty good. I give it, like I said, probably 8 out of 10. You know, it does 10 to 12 feet in the front, and again, if you mount them between 4 to 7 feet, that seems to be the best angle for actual motion pickup on these things. Yeah, so some of the good points and pros of these things, as I listed off, is a good cost of value. It's a 2-pack light, so even if you're paying the full price around $30 to $40, it's still a great deal. I paid that for one of the other ones, and these are much brighter, have much better features, usable modes, and can be turned off, and with the built-in thing. They're bright, good usable modes. The wide-angle light coverage is another good advantage of these things, and their design is pretty nice. It's kind of ergonomic. It's, you know, flat on a wall. You can mount it pretty flush. So if it's on a moving trailer on the side, it's not, you know, dragging a lot of wind, something like that, and it gives you good coverage of light. It pretty much, and another advantage, it'll run all night on the low mode as a solar light, because some solar lights I bought, the cheap ones especially, they'll run like 2 or 3 hours and they shut off. These things with the 1860 cell, they'll run all night. What I'm estimating, it probably drains the cell down to maybe 80% of this charge, you know, like around 3.95, 4 volt range. And this little trickle panel, after, you know, 8 to 10 hours of good sunlight during the day, it'll top the cell back up, no problem. So it's not putting a big load on the cell. And if it's in motion mode, you know, if it turns on a few times during the night, it's fine. As long as you're not constantly moving stuff in front where it stays on the high mode, it won't drain the cell completely down and shut off, basically. The sensitivity, like I said, the sensor is actually pretty good. These are great versatile for many locations, like I said, cottages, trailers, farm, your barns, the back shed, anywhere where you don't have electricity. You stick these things on a wall somewhere, and you have a good motion light that for good use for in remote locations. Again, the brightness is pretty good. Like I said, estimated around 600 to 700 lumens, probably a little less than 1,000. So it's really hard to tell with measuring these things, because I haven't really calibrated my sphere, the thing, completely yet. Some of the disadvantages and the cons I find is like the fact that you got this mount this thing where there's no shade. You can't mount it on eave, and you can't mount it on a north facing wall. You can mount a north facing wall, but it's not going to get a good area of light from the sun, so the cell will not get a full charge if it's being used a lot at night. The other problem is the fact I don't think the front is waterproof. The seal, everything on the front is bad, but the back, as you'll see in the pictures on BLF, has a is it still recording? Just check and see. Yep, has no seal. They should put an O-ring around here. So what I do recommend with these things, like most any lights I usually buy for outdoor use, let's see if the focus is actually focusing. You see the screws here? Yeah, is that remove the back, spray the inside with some light anti-corrosion oil or electronic borders. Stop with the focus thing again. I need to get a good camera for this stuff. Yeah, because it's not focusing. But yeah, just sprayed it with oil and put some sealant, silicone or something around the back of this, and then why is the camera doing weird things? But anyhow, can't get it to focus. Come on, camera, there you go. Yeah, so seal the back and with some sealant and stuff like that, and you have no problem. And spray the insides with an anti-corrosion. That's what I do with every garden light I do, is I spray them with like a light oil on electronics, like a non-conductive oil anyway. And they last for years longer because it prevents corrosion on the circuit boards, things like that, and around the battery. And you have no problem. Like I said, for mounting, you can mount them with either the screws. So I would recommend using the adhesive and the screws if you're going to mount them on a mobile area, like a trailer or things like that. So yeah, so as for what they are, they're actually not bad. The manual actually comes in English. It shows you the mode operation, things like that. Comes with 2 in a pack, and I'll post some pictures on the actual forum of them in use at night, and in comparison to other lights that I have that's like that, to show how bright they are compared to the ones that's on the trailer. I'll take pictures at night with those on and this on too, and show you the difference. And yeah, and again, I'll post a link to where they're located, icloverlights.com, and they were sent by Kyle. And yeah, I give thanks to Kyle for sending these out for review, and I'm probably going to purchase more of these because I do like them, and I have some good uses for these on my utility trailer and the travel trailer around each side, and in the backyard, because they're integrated all as one sort of thing, and you don't have to worry about separate panels with wires dangling, things like that. And they're very clean looking, and yeah, I give them a thumbs up.